For j, remember when we're squaring something, what we're really doing is multiplying itself by itself. So what it really looks like is 3 minus 2i times 3 minus 2i, which is a multiplication problem and an opportunity for us to FOIL. So we have our first two terms, which is 9. Our outside terms, which are going to be a negative 6i. Inside terms is going to give us a negative 6i. And our last terms is going to give us a positive 4i squared. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of the I squared by turning it into a negative 1, making that positive 4 into a negative 4, combining it with our other real number. So 9 minus 4 gives us 5. And then if we combine our two negative 6i's, they turn into negative 12i. Letter K has 3 terms. They can be multiplied in any order. So what I'm going to do first is distribute this 2i onto both of those terms and then take that answer and FOIL it with the last or third term. So 2i times 1 is 2i, and 2i times negative 4i is going to give me a negative 8i squared. All right, so before we multiply that, let's go ahead and clean it up by taking away the I squared and turning it into a negative 1, making that 2i to the positive 8. All right, so now we're going to multiply that answer by the third term here, which is 1 plus I, and we're going to do that by FOILing. So our first two terms turn into 2i. Our outside terms give us a positive 2i squared. Our inside terms give us a real 8, and our last terms give us a positive 8i. All right, so the I squared is something we need to deal with, so we can turn that positive 2i squared into a negative 2, and we can find any other real numbers, which looks like here's my real number and here is a real number, so those are going to combine to give me 6. And then find my imaginary numbers, and 8i and 2i are going to combine to give me 10i. Okay, so this is a division problem where we're going to use a conjugate. So we're going to take the conjugate of the bottom and multiply that by the top and the bottom. So instead of 1 plus I, we are going to multiply it by 1 minus I. And we're going to do to the top and the bottom. All right, so on the bottom, because it's conjugates, we can do the shortcut with the F and the L. We only have to do our first terms, which is 1, and our last terms, which is a negative I squared. And a negative I squared, we know, is going to turn into a negative 1. It's actually going to turn into a positive 1. So those combined on the bottom are going to give me 2 on the bottom. And then up top, it's not a FOIL situation, it's just a distribution. So I can say 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 times negative I is negative 5i. And then I would look to see if those could be reduced, if all 3 numbers could be reduced, and I don't see any, so that would be an acceptable answer.